Hello and welcome to the WordPress custom theme development series. In the first tutorial in this series, I'm going to install XAMPP web server stack and then install WordPress. So that's what to expect from this tutorial. So assuming you have no experience at all or knowledge of installing WordPress or installing a server package, first of all, we need to install XAMPP, which is basically a server package that's going to allow us to run WordPress and develop WordPress on our own computer. So first of all, you need to head off to the XAMPP website and download the corresponding file you need for your operating system. So this will work on Windows, Linux, and Mac. So I'm just going to select the download. I'm going to be downloading this latest version here. So once it's downloaded, I'll just close this and open it up in the downloads area. And the installation is really simple. Once it gets started, we press yes. Now this is a new installation of Windows, so there shouldn't be any problems. I'm going to press OK and then next. Now we don't need all of these items here, so I'm not going to need Tomcat or a mail server or an FTP server at all. MySQL is going to be our database that we're going to be utilizing. I'm not going to be utilizing Perl, and I don't need that or that. But PHP MyAdmin, that's going to be the graphical user interface that we're going to access the database. So that's pretty much all we're going to need. I'm going to press next and I install it onto a C drive. It just makes it easy to find. Press next and then deselect that. Press next and then next and let it install. Okay, so that takes a couple of seconds to install and we need to allow access to Apache. Apache is basically the web server, so when we type in a URL into our browser, a signal is going to be sent to Apache, and that's going to deal with that request. So I press allow access. That's what we've just installed, or one of the programs we've just installed. It says, do you want to start the control panel now? I'm just going to show you how to start the control panel manually. So I'm going to deselect that, press finish, and then I can obviously just delete the installation package. I don't need that anymore. And then travel back to the C drive. So if you remember, I installed this on the C drive. Let's go into the XAMPP folder. That's what we've just installed. And inside of here at the bottom here, we've got three options: start, stop, and control. So we need to start the server in order for WordPress to be able to run correctly. So every time we develop in WordPress, we're going to run the server. So I can do that by utilizing the control or start. With control, I can actually see what's going on. So let's open this up. Now, for some reason, I get this problem. I'm just going to ignore it this time. It's nothing important that isn't going to make this software run. So I'm going to press start because I need the Apache server. That's basically going to allow me to run a web server so it can serve pages to my browser. And then I'm going to need MySQL because that is basically the database that's going to store all the data that the WordPress has or needs. And then these are grayed out because we didn't install them, but we don't need them. Okay, so as long as yours goes green, it means that the service is running and we can access and develop. So with that in mind, I just need to close. Well, I'll close that for now. Let's go into the browser because what should happen now is our web server's running. So here I've got two options. So the first option is I can type in 127.0.0.1. So you're going to need to remember that. That takes me to the web server. So this is basically means the web server is running correctly. Or I can just type in the word localhost. Right. There we go. So it does exactly the same thing. It takes me to the web server. So what does that mean? What does it actually do? Where are these files actually being collected from? I guess that's the next thing that we need to understand because that's where we need to install WordPress. So if I go back into my C drive in the XAMPP folder, Inside of here, this is where we were before, the control to start the control panel, which is now down here. Now, where these files are that you see here that are being served to the browser is in this folder called htdocs. So you're going to need to become familiar. This folder is really important because it's going to hold all the web files that you're going to create. So if I just delete these folders here because I don't need them, and I would just rename this to, for example, index, I need to just go inside of here, and I'm just going to edit this quickly with Notepad. Yeah, I'm just going to control and delete that and just say hello. I just want to show you that this file here, it's in this htdocs, that's the only file I've got now. So if I press refresh now, sorry, I'm in this folder. If I go back to the root directory, localhost, there we go, it says hello. So if I type in 127.0.0.1, oh, no, 127.0.0.1. Sorry, I'm using a virtual machine here. You can see that has gone to hello to. So it's serving up this index page. If I rename this, you'll see now I've got this index and it shows me the page that's in that folder. Okay, so you can now see where the files are being served from the server. So you're going to type in the domain name, in this case, the local host or the loopback address here, 127.0.0.1. That's going to send a signal to Apache server. That's what we had installed, Apache. Apache is then going to deal with that request and then basically collect this file or collect these files and then send it back to your browser, and that's what you can see here. So, knowing that little bit of information, we can now start to install WordPress. So the first thing we want to do is to actually create a small database. So this is where we're going to go to the other piece of software I mentioned, PHP My Admin. So I type this in, 127.0.1/PHP My Admin or localhost/PHP My Admin. And this is going to take me to the graphical user interface where I can interface with the database, which was, if you remember, MySQL. So MySQL is the database. So this interface here allows us to access this database. And you can see that there's some database here already. So let me just show you how to delete a database. So I can just delete this. If I click on this little database icon at the bottom here, it's got the option to drop the database. So that allows me to remove a database if ever you want to remove one. And now I need to create a new one for WordPress. So I just press new, and then I'm just going to type in the word WP, press create, and there we go. I've created a database. So there's nothing inside of here. There's no tables because I've not made any yet. And WordPress is going to build all these tables for me when we install them. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then we'll head over now to wordpress.org. So this is where we're going to download WordPress. So there's wordpress.com, which is the commercial side of WordPress where you can actually sign up and just use WordPress in the browser. Or you can go to wordpress.org, and this is basically where you can download WordPress and install it like we are and create a development server. So get WordPress and then just download whatever the latest version is. This is 5.4. Let that download. And then we need to extract this file. So if I go into my downloads, obviously WordPress is here now. So I'm just going to right click and extract all. That should take a couple of seconds to extract. So WordPress is now extracted. A new folder appears. I'm just going to get rid of that folder. Go back to my downloads folder here. So this is where I've just extracted this folder. So I go into the folder. I've got a new folder called WordPress. And inside of here is all the files that make up WordPress. So I'm just going to select them all, press Control and C. And then I'm going to head over to my C drive, XAMPP. and then the htdocs. Remember, this is the root directory, the folder where all the web pages get served from into my browser. So I'm just going to delete this file. I don't need that. And I'm going to press paste. And that's going to copy out across all the WordPress files into this folder. There we go. So now I've got that in place. Don't need this anymore. And I'm going to open up a new tab and then open up localhost or a loopback. I'll keep doing that. 127.0.0.1. So this will open up our server, but this time we're now going to be installing WordPress because all the files are now ready for us to do that. We've just copied them across to the htdocs folder. So I'm going to install this in English. And so we're going to need 5 things. So we'll go through that and press let's go. So this is what we're going to need. We need the database name. So we've already built a database. It's called WP. We did that earlier. So WP. And then the username. So MySQL is a piece of software, database software tool. Like I said, it's running right here. So it's a piece of software and it has security. So we can add users to this database and assign those users to different databases if we wanted to. So if we made a database here, we could assign a user to that, for example. But by default, there is a user and password to access this. And that's the root or the admin account. So we're going to just utilize that for now. So the username is root and the password is nothing at all. It's that safe. So we don't need to worry about that security. We're just running this development server on our own machine. No one else is going to access this. So the database host is localhost. So basically this is just telling the computer that the database is on this computer. So if the database was stored somewhere on the web, we could just put an IP address in there of where it is on the web, for example, and so on. But the database is installed on our machine. So we're just going to be using localhost or 127.0.0.1 and then the table prefix. So this is basically, as it says, if you want to run multiple WordPress installations on a single database, then you're going to need a different table prefix. And I'll explain that in a minute when we press submit and the tables appear. So I'm just going to run the installation now. We're ready to go. And all this information we can change later. So I'm just going to type in something, website admin. Confirm the weak password I'm using. Again, I'm not worried about security at this point. And press install. So it's important here that you remember the username and password. So this is the username and password that you're going to use to access the control panel of WordPress. If you lose that, you'll need to retrieve your email. So if you don't put the problem is here that the email system probably isn't working because you're working and developing locally here. So it could be that this email service won't work if you do have a problem. So just remember the username and password. I will show you in a later video how to overcome the problem of losing your username and password. Okay, so press Install WordPress. Waiting. And there we go. So now we can log in. So you'll notice that we're taken to this new area called wplogin.php. So this is another thing you need to remember. So if I just remove that, now WordPress is installed. You can see that when I go to my home or root directory or root on my website, you can see I've got a website now. So congratulations, you've just installed WordPress. So there's 2 sides here to WordPress. You've got the actual website, and then you've got WP admin, which is the admin area. So if you remember, I told you to remember the admin username and password. This is why you need it to log into this. And now you're in the dashboard of WordPress, and we can access and start to configure WordPress. So that's WordPress installed. Now, let me just tell you about the database prefix. So here, this is what we had before in WordPress, before we installed WordPress. And if I press it now, you can see that all these tables have appeared. And you'll notice you've got this prefix that we defined, WP_. So you can see where it is being applied now. These are all the tables that make up WordPress. So if we were now to install WordPress again, we could select this database, but change the prefix, and then we can then install the new set of tables associated to that installation, that new WordPress installation. So we could have two WordPress installations on the same database. So hopefully that makes sense. So overall, we've achieved the objectives. We wanted to install XAMPP, which we've done, and we wanted to install WordPress, which we've just completed. So for those who need a quick recap, I already mentioned the objectives were to install XAMPP, which we've completed, and installed WordPress, or install WordPress, sorry, and we completed that. So a few other notes to remember, XAMPP. So to start XAMPP, you need to go into C XAMPP and then XAMPP control, or select XAMPP control. And you need to remember that in the C driver XAMPP folder, there's a folder called htdocs, and that's where all the web server files are located. So finally, to access WordPress, you need to use the http://localhost, or just type in 127.0.0.1 in the browser. There you'll be able to access the root directory of your server, or once WordPress installed, the WordPress website. And then remember that the admin page for WordPress, you can use localhost or the 127 number, and then /wp-admin. So that's going to take you to the admin page. And then finally, if you want to access the database again, you're going to need either localhost or the 127 number here, and then /php-admin. So those are all the notes or key points to remember from this video. And I'll see you hopefully in the next tutorial.